Hello and welcome to today's video. In this video today we are going to be looking at how to make a dread bass in Vital. So let's get right into it. Without further ado, let's have a listen to the sound we're going to be making in today's video. Here we go. That's the sound we're going to be making, like I say, an old school dready style bass. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new instrument track. I'm going to pop this instrument track inside the group. I'm going to unsolo this one. We're now going to solo this one. Let's copy this MIDI down to the channel that we want. So we now got exactly the same MIDI notes as we had before. You can put any MIDI you want in. So we have a little idea over something, so we can listen to it in context over some drums, for example. We get something like this. That's the kind of vibe we're going for. Jungle-y, jungle, jungle. We want more jungle, please. So here it is. Without further ado, let's get into the sound. So in this, we're going to need a Vital. So whatever DAW you're using, you're going to go to your channel and open up a Vital. Once your Vital is open, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to select basic shapes. You're then going to want to select a square wave. So there we go, we've now got square wave selected. We now end up with something like this. We solo this. There we go. Let's just move our attack up a little bit, say 10 seconds, something like that. So avoid any kind of clicking, maybe a little tiny bit more release. So now we've got our square wave. We just want to make sure that we have the phase set to 0. The reason for this is we want the wave to start in exactly the same place each time we press a new key. We don't want the wave to be starting in random different positions due to phase issues and inconsistency within our sound. If we have it on 0, it means that if we are starting from the central point of this basic shape, meaning down here, every time we press a key, this is where we are going to start from every single time. If we have this on like 100, etc., then the start point every time we press a key is going to move to different points and it's going to be inconsistent. You're going to get peaks and drops. It's going to be a bit difficult to work with, especially when you come to mixing later due to phase issues. So let's make sure we've got the phase on 0, so we always start from exactly the same point of the sound. We're at 180, meaning that we will be starting from in Vital. That I do believe means we start from the center of the sound, I believe. Okay, we can move it all the way up to 360 and all the way down to 0. 360 means it would start from the end here. 0 would start from the very beginning here. We're going to start right in the middle of the sound here, so we're going to put that onto 180, double click, and it will reset back to 180. Any of the default settings within Vital can easily be reset back to default just with a double click of your mouse. Okay, if I was to change this to that and then double click it, it's going to go back to 100 actually, because the default's 100, so there we go, and then back to 0. One thing you're going to need for this video, as we go through this video, is you're going to need to make sure that you go into the advanced section and you're going to go down below oversampling, and you're going to see underneath a display. In the display you've got frequency units. Now I like to have mine set in Hertz, purely for when I work with filters and EQs. I find it easier to work within Hertz than I do within the other option, which is semitones, as you can see. If you prefer to work in semitones, that's absolutely fine. This is purely a preference thing. So if you did not know that this was an option, here we go. You just go into your advanced setting up the top tab here. Down at the very bottom, underneath the oversampling is display. In display, change semitones to Hertz. That way you're going to see what Hertz range you are working in within the frequencies. For me, much easier to work with, like I say, if that's what you like to do, then if you're wondering, as you watch this video why I am getting the data displayed as hertz rather than semitones, then this is the reason why. So once you've got that set up, we're going to go back into voices. We've got our basic shapes, we've got our square wave here, we've set the phase to 0, so we're always hitting at the same point. Lovely. What's next? Well, we want to set up a filter. So we're going to go to the filter. For the sake of this one, I'm actually going to select dirty, and I'm going to go for a 24 dirty in this one. Nice and dirty. And I'm going to whack my resonance down a little bit, maybe like 42. I'm also going to go to the cutoff. Here is where you can see the hertz working, so you can see that I've got it in hertz. I'm going to take this down to around 50 hertz, I think, around about our sub-bass frequency. So there we go. I'm going to push the drive up a bit, maybe nearly 5, around about there. I'm going to leave the rest as it is. I'm not going to change any of this. I could use key tracking if I want, but this should be fairly accurate as to what I want anyway. For this type of sound, I kind of like it without the key tracking, but you could add key tracking if you wanted to, just to keep things more in check as you go up the octaves. Okay, that's basically what your key tracking is going to do for you. It's allow you to keep clarity within the sound and consistency within the sound as you go up the keys. If you've ever found that a sound tends to lose its sweet spot that you have found on a filter as you go up the keyboard, generally that is why. If you put key tracking on, it will change the start point of your filter cutoff according to the key and frequency you are playing. So now we've got our filter set up. We need some movement in this filter. We want to create some movement, so we're going to go to LFO1 to do this. I'm going to set it to an 8 and 8 grid. So based on that, knowing that the 4 is exactly in the middle, we're going to come a couple along, just over a couple along, maybe one up, around about there, I would say. I could also push this up a little bit, like that. This is totally optional, whether you do this bit or not. I'm going to just do that like that. You could leave it on 0. I'm going to put it up on 2 here. And then I'm going to drag this onto the cutoff. And I'm going to bring the cutoff down to around 50, yeah, about 57, 59, around about that area. Let's see what we get once we've got things to about here. Let's see what we've got so far. Okay, we're getting something. You might notice that we got the trigger, so the sound is playing around. It's playing quite quickly. One thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to change the rate mode. So I'm going to take it off tempo. I'm going to put it into seconds. If I put it into seconds, weirdly it changes the frequency, but seconds is what we're looking in time rather than BPM mode. If you were in Serum, you would just switch off the BPM mode. Keeps things a lot smoother when transitioning your speed of the LFO. If you ever wanted to do some automation, which we'll look into in a bit with the macros, etc., it's going to be a lot smoother doing the automation when in seconds or off out of BPM mode. So we want to go for near to 1 second. So we're going to go around 9 something. Let's say 958, and we're in trigger mode, which is fine. Let's see what we get now. So there we go. We can, like I said, move this down. Let's see what happens now once we go from there. I like that one there. So like I say, it's up to you whether you want to have this up or down. Let's listen back to the original. Let's like listen. And this one, you see we're very much there. This is the basis of this sound. We've got the basics already sorted now. This is in whatever synth you're going to do. Once you've got this movement and you've mapped it to your filter cutoff, you've added a bit of resonance, boost slightly, depends on the type of filter you're using. Like if you're using Serum, you can use a MG24, you can use your regular low 24, something like that. You might want to boost the resonance a little bit, boost the drive a bit, and you'll get very similar results to what we have here. This is the basic principle idea of this sound. The rest just comes down to how we process it and how we treat it. So, a couple of extra things I'm going to do before I move to the processing is I'm just going to go to the voices at the bottom here and turn the voices down to 1. I want to be in mono, so unlike in Serum where you have a mono button and you switch to mono, inside Vital we need to change the voices to 1 voice. Therefore, when we press our keys, we can only use 1 voice, 1 key per time. If I press 2 keys, only 1 of those keys will play, not 2 of them. Let's see what happens now if we go into the processing. So there are a couple of things that we can do to add to the sound. We might want to add some distortion first of all. It's probably the best place to start, is to add a bit of distortion to this sound. I'm going to change the distortion down type to assign fold, and I'm going to add this here to that to add a bit of movement to it. So let's see what happens. Just very subtly, we don't want a massive amount of or modulation going into this drive, but enough to give us a bit of a character, add some harmonics, add some extra texture to this sound, just to give it a little bit more authenticity. Here we go, let's see what this sounds like. Okay, so I'm fairly happy with that. You might have noticed there's a bit of clicking on the sound. Now I've adjusted the attack, I've played a bit with the release. The reason we're getting clicking in this instance, normally changing the attack slightly, adding a bit of release maybe, changing it to 1 voices, will normally remove the clicking. But if you listen to this sound, you'll notice that the clicking only takes place in this little area here where there are multiple short notes. This is due to the resetting of the filter. It causes a little click each time it resets. So for that reason we're getting this slight little clicking sound here. This can all be removed in later processing. When it comes to sidechaining, for example, you'll get rid of some of these clicks. You can manually do it. Once you bounce these sounds down, you can bounce them down individually, put them into a sampler to resample, play the MIDI again with the sampled notes, which would not have to click on every time. So there's a few ways around it, but for the purpose of this video, we're just going to continue with the sound as it is. As you can hear, if I play the very first sound, there was no click at the beginning of the sound. It's only where there are short notes playing consecutively, in which case you're getting a quick reset, which is just causing a slight little click in the sound. If I play the very first note, you'll notice that there's no click at the beginning. It does make me think one thing I want to add to this sound is maybe another LFO. Let's add a bit of attack. So let's come in here, let's change this to like 116, let's come like here, we put a little bit of oomph up there, and we'll bring it down something like this. So we get a nice sort of boom, and we're going to set this in the matrix. So we're going to go to the empty source. Our source is going to be LFO2. The source is then going to go to the global, and it's going to go to the transpose, which is going to be our pitch. So inside the pitch, we're then going to set the pitch, go to enter value, left click, enter value, go 12, I'm going to hit semitones. There we go. So now this is going to go from 12 semitones all the way down to its original pitch. So let's hear this, let's see what happens. Got a nice wobbly effect there. Why? Because I haven't put it into envelope mode, so very important that we do this. There we go. That's what happens if you don't. Now we just get one of these every time a note plays. Just to hear what's happening if I move this down to a slow envelope. So it goes, you're going to hear a very exaggerated pitch down. Here we go. Which is a cool effect in some instances, just to have that. It can be a really cool effect to add as a pitch bend to a sound sometimes. But for this, we just want a really quick one. So I'm going to put it back to 116. We're just looking for that little thud at the beginning of the sound to give it a bit of, a little bit of a transient at the beginning of the bass. Let's listen, check it out. You can try different values. We could try 24 semitones, for instance. See if that gives us any more kick to the sound. Not massively, so it really depends. If we put this down on 8, we might hear it more. Or 1, 4. 1, 2. You can see around 1, 4, 1, 8 is a good number. I like 1, 8 for this one. Okay, so I'm going to come back up now, back into the effects. So we added a distortion. As you can tell, it's still a bit weak compared to the original. If we listen to the original and we listen back to this one, there's less thump. So what we're going to want to do to this one is we're going to come in here and add a compressor. We're going to put the compressor into single band mode. We're going to whack up the upper compression. Let's check where we get to. Now it should be fairly similar with the original. You can hear there's a lot more high end on this one. So that's to do with the distortion, the drive, the amount that this LFO is pushing the drive. If I turned it down a bit, we're going to get... Let's try this again. So let's say we like that. The other thing we're going to do just to control the high end is we're going to put an EQ onto this sound. So let's add an equalizer here. So this equalizer, we're just going to go to the top end and tame the top end a bit. So as we come down here, we're going to take this to about, let's say 500 Hertz, around that area, so that nothing above 500 Hertz plays, and we just get the low end. So now we should have a bit of a smoother sound. Let's compare that to the original. I'm going to go to the other phone, put this on 16. I think it's too slow. That's better. Okay, so we got a very similar result there now. We'll check it with the drums. So, thanks for watching, thanks for listening to my reverby voice. I hope the audio quality was okay on the actual audio coming through the door. I hope you learned something, and I hope you all stick around for some more videos. This is my first upload. I will be uploading more ideas soon based on some of the ideas that I mentioned. I'm going to be covering various different aspects of the production for music and for film sound design. So stick around, hit subscribe, follow, and peace. Take care of yourselves. Thanks, guys.